Logan is the newest X-Men movie, the third standalone Wolverine movie. Well, second if you don't count X-Men Origins Wolverine like most people do. And the final movie to feature Hugh Jackman as Logan/Wolverine. Now, some of you may know, Logan was a movie that I was very excited for going into 2017 for a few reasons. Number one, I love Wolverine the superhero. 2, I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And 3, and most importantly, I was very interested to see how this movie would turn out being the final movie to feature Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Now, I feel a lot of people on YouTube have already given their spoiler talks for Logan. I personally wanted to wait a little bit just so I could give everyone a good chance to see it. And by now, I feel anyone who hasn't seen Logan really doesn't care to see it. So, let's talk about Logan in full spoiler detail because it's awesome. First of all, I love the way that Logan opens up. We see Logan, we discover that he's been working as a chauffeur recently. Some of the people he's driving, they're starting to give him shit, so he pulls over. And then from there, he just whips out his claws and just shreds these people limb from limb in the most bloody, graphic way we've probably seen in an X-Men movie. It just really hits in the face right there. It's like, yep, this is a rated R movie, alright. I, for one, was really happy that Logan was made a rated R movie because with a lot of Wolverine's story arcs and the stuff that he's gone through, it really just makes sense that the best way to really tell a story for him is to make the movie rated R. We also see at this point that 1, Logan's body is aging, and 2, the adamantium that's in his body, it's starting to poison him and slowly but surely kill him. He has lately been spending his days taking care of a very old and very sick Charles Xavier. Because here we see that Professor X, due to his old age, he hasn't been able to really retain his mind powers as best as he can. In fact, there have been times where he has developed these seizures, very powerful mind waves that he gives off during them, and as a result, people have even been killed by them. It's why it's really important that Logan is tending to Charles the way that he is, providing him the medication that he can give to him so, those seizures are retained. But it's also right here that you really see the reason that Logan is caring for Professor X the way that he is because he's all he really has left. The fact that Logan has been alive for decades now, and throughout all those times he's lost so many people close to him, he wants to keep Charles alive because that's really the only friend he has left. It's just a moment that really makes you feel for Logan and just seeing the suffering and the trials that he has gone through throughout his life. And obviously, to go along with this movie rated R, there is a considerable amount of swearing in this movie, some done by both Logan and Charles Xavier. Now, some people were maybe taken back a little bit on the fact that Charles Xavier swore in this movie because, he's the older, wiser man. He shouldn't really succumb to that. But me personally, I really understood it because it's not just the fact that Logan has been through a rough life. Charles Xavier, he's had it pretty rough too. I mean, when you really think of all the battles he's gone through, all the trials that he's been through, I mean, these guys are both really seasoned old guys. If they weren't dropping a few fucks, shits, and dammits here and there, I'd be a little concerned. And then a little later on in the movie, Logan is confronted by this woman named Gabriella, and she is asking Logan to take her daughter named Laura to a place in North Dakota called Eden. Logan, however, refuses to do so. He doesn't want any part in really helping anybody because, he's basically just done with everything. It's not until they find out that Gabriella has been murdered that Logan and Xavier decide to bring Laura under their wing, keep her safe, keep her hidden. But it's also in this point that this man named Donald Pierce and his followers, known as Reavers, have shown up to where Logan and Xavier have been hiding and have asked for Laura personally. But it's also at this point we discover there may be more to Laura than we're aware of. Pierce sends one of his men into the warehouse to get her, and then later on she walks out and literally rolls his severed head over to Pierce. And then it's at this point we see Laura unsheath 2 claws from each of her hands and even a claw from each of her feet, and then she prepares to go completely savage on all of the Reavers, which has Logan sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? So it's at this point Logan, Charles, and Laura, they all make their getaway from the Reavers, and now Logan begins to delve into a little more about who Laura is and where she comes from. And it's here Logan discovers that through a video message from Gabriella that Laura's code name was X-23. She was a part of this project by the Reavers that involved them breeding children using DNA from mutants, essentially as a way to give them their own army of X-Men. But along the way, Xander Rice, the head of this project, he discovered that the children became more and more difficult to control as they got older, and because of that, he funded a new project known as X-24, which led to so many children being killed because he saw no further use for them. Now Charles tries to plead with Logan to take Laura to the sacred place of Eden in North Dakota, where a lot of these children have already escaped to. There she will be free, she will be safe, and everything will be fine. Charles also feels Logan should really do this because it turns out Laura was bred from Logan's DNA, which essentially makes her Logan's daughter. And of course, Logan feels a little more compelled to help her because of the fact that she is his daughter. But he's also noticed that she's been reading these X-Men comics that have been talking about this sacred ground of Eden. But it's because of that Logan feels maybe it's not real. It was probably just, you know, made for the sake of having comics. Which I did think was very interesting that they sort of broke that fourth wall. How it was like, oh, the comics were just these loosely based stories off the events that happened. But what I also love here is continuing to see Charles be that mentor to Logan, because throughout this whole time, Logan's trying to tell Charles, like, I'm not helping her. Someone will come along. And Charles says to Logan, someone has come along. That's you. So now a little later on, the three of them have been tracked down by the Reavers in the hotel they're staying at. And here is where Charles begins to suffer another one of his seizures. These seizures just cause everyone that's around Charles to be just completely frozen in place, slowly but surely getting just completely overwhelmed by these psychic waves. But what is cool is just seeing Logan's abilities in the fact that, you know, he can regenerate himself, he can just slowly move through these waves to get to Charles. And then from there, we get some really fucking sick kill shots. I mean, that one scene when Wolverine just impales a dude directly from his skull from underneath his chin. That was awesome. And eventually Logan is able to get to Charles. He gives him a little injection that eventually causes his seizures to suppress, but it's at this point they need to get out of that hotel because many people, whether they were Reavers or not, have been killed by that. But it's here we really see more of where Charles is suffering here. Not just in the fact that, you know, he has these seizures that he can't control, but that these seizures are so powerful that they're capable of killing others. In fact, we discover that these seizures killed members of the X-Men. In fact, it may have ended up in the destruction of the X-Mansion and Professor X essentially killing some of his students. It's just a moment that really makes you feel for Professor X. Just hits you in the feels knowing that he was the one who led to a significant number of mutants being killed. So then later on in the movie, Logan, Laura, and Xavier, they're actually given some shelter by this family who helped out a little bit on their highway when their horses escaped from their car. But what was really nice about this moment is you see the three of them, they're just sitting down, they're having dinner with this family, and for the first time, they just feel at peace with everything. You know, everything just feels fine. It feels like they're actually a part of a family again. It's a really nice moment to have in this movie. But it's later on, Logan's out with the father, they're just dealing with this pipe to help take care of the house. It's in this moment, we hear Xavier, he feels like he's talking to Logan, and then soon enough, we see this younger Logan standing over Charles Xavier, whips out his claws, and stabs him to death. This same Logan proceeds to kill the mother, son, and eventually the father of this family, and then takes Laura and prepares to take her away. And now it's in this moment you discover, oh shit, that's X-24. He was the project. He was the clone of a younger Wolverine. And it's in this moment Logan tries to fight off X-24, but you quickly realize that X-24 has such an upper hand on Logan. Simply in the fact that X-24 is Logan in his younger body. He's Wolverine in his prime. It's easy for him to fight. It's easy for him to heal. It's easy for him to take the hits that Logan's trying to dish out on him. And none of that is the same the other way around. So fortunately for Logan and Laura, they were able to get away from X-24. They eventually stop. They give Charles a proper burial because that's what he deserves. And it's also in this moment, X-23, she breaks the silence that she's been containing in herself for a long time. You know, she finally talks to Logan and says, "You're injured. Rest." I'll get us to Eden. So eventually the two of them finally make it to Eden. They discover that it is in fact true. You see all these young kid mutants there ready to greet them and take them in. And now it's at this point Logan is just prepared to leave. He feels Laura is now here with her friends. You know, she's all set. She's good with them. But you could tell Laura isn't ready for him to leave because, you know, she doesn't know how he'll survive out there all by himself. She feels he should come with them. But we all know who Logan is. He's someone that doesn't want to stay with people that he cares about. He wants to leave so they will be safe because he feels that anyone he cares about in his life, they die. But it's here the Reavers have discovered the location of X-23 and all these mutant kids. They're now prepared to finish the job, kill every single one of them. But now it's in this moment, Logan feels he needs to go back to help these kids, to help X-23. So with that, he gives himself a serum that one of the kids had made for him. So now Logan's able to regenerate a little bit better. He's able to gain some of that, you know, healing factor back. He eventually confronts Xander Rice, who reveals to Logan that he was behind all this to try to contain mutant kind in order to weaponize these mutants for their own sake. Eventually Logan just does away with Xander Rice, but now Donald Pierce 6X24 back on Logan. So now here we get a big massive climatic battle between Logan, X23, and the kids versus Donald Pierce, X24, and the rest of the Reavers. And it is fantastic. The best part is seeing Wolverine and X-23 just fighting alongside each other, just killing all these Reavers the most graphic, gruesome way possible. It's such a nice father-daughter moment for them. And what's really great is seeing the powers in all of these kids, because some of them have powers that relate to other mutants of the past, which makes you wonder if they had come from those mutants' DNA. These kids are putting up a fight. They're killing Reavers themselves. They actually all together are able to kill Donald Pierce. But at this point, it's now down to Logan versus X-24. And truthfully, I just love seeing the fight between these two. I mean, I love seeing it earlier, but it's great seeing it again because it's truly symbolic. It's old versus young. It's good versus evil. It's Logan versus Wolverine, essentially. And it's at this point, Logan is just getting so overwhelmed by X-24. X-24 eventually impales Logan onto this tree stump. Just as this happens, however, Laura is able to kill X-24 by shooting him in the head with the adamantium bullet that Logan had been carrying on him for so many years, just in case you know. He felt like ending it all. However, it's in this moment, Logan is impaled. He's not healing from it. Laura just comes up to him. She is crying. She's sobbing. She's devastated. And it's in this moment, she finally calls Logan Daddy. I gotta tell you, in this moment, my eyes were just welling up in tears. My throat was getting so choked up. It's in this moment you see that Logan is finally dying. What's very fitting for Logan, though, is the final words he says as he's dying in Laura's arms are, "So this is what it feels like." Because the one thing that Wolverine has never experienced throughout his entire life is death. So it's in this very sad moment, Logan, aka Wolverine, he finally dies, but he dies at peace, which is something else that he's just never really known his whole life. So then in the final scene of this movie, the children, they give a big funeral for Logan, and then they proceed to go on their way. But just before she leaves, Laura, she takes the cross that they gave for Logan's grave, she puts it on its side to form an X, signifying that Wolverine was the last of the X-Men. He's finally died. The X-Men are dead. It just felt like a way of the movie showing like those X-Men are now gone. This new band of kids, they will become the new X-Men. A new generation is on the way. So all in all, Logan was a fantastic movie. Hugh Jackman, as always, just kills it as Logan, aka Wolverine. In fact, I would go so far to say that this is the best I have seen him as that character. He brought just such a new twist to him in the fact that he's old, he's dying, he's dealing with this conflict of having a daughter, trying to figure out what to do, trying to find peace. He just did as great a job as he could have in his final role as Wolverine. Patrick Stewart was great as Charles Xavier. It's great to see him continuing to be the mentor to Logan. Donald Pierce was a great villain. I love that they had X-24 in here as a younger Wolverine that's controlled by the Reavers. I love that the storyline focuses on family and hope and discovering peace, and how it revolved around these young and mutant kids who are trying to make their own way into the world but are being hunted down. Essentially them becoming new X-Men potentially later on. And yeah, Daphne King as Laura, aka X-23, she was unbelievable in this movie. I believe this is her first movie role ever. If that's the case, she was phenomenal. She was an absolute savage. She was a badass. Her story was great. She didn't talk very much in this movie, but when she talked, she delivered some great lines throughout it. I love seeing the father-daughter relationship that really does grow and form between her and Logan. The action is so well done. The violence is gruesome, but you feel like it needs to be with this kind of Wolverine movie. This is without question the best movie I have seen so far in 2017. It just might also be the best X-Men movie I've ever seen. I may have to think about that a little bit more because I am a huge fan of X-Men Days of Future Past, but if this does not beat that, it's right up there with that. It's tough. I'll have to give that some more thought because this movie, it truly was awesome. I am so glad that Wolverine went out this way. It couldn't have been done better. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.